Imagine you're running a business. One day, someone hands you a bill that essentially says, "Congratulations, you are now £5 billion poorer and 50,000 jobs lighter." Sounds like the kind of nightmare you'd have after eating too much cheese before bed, right? But welcome to real life. This is Angela Rayner's Employment Rights Bill, or as critics have affectionately dubbed it, the Unemployment Bill. Today, British businesses are reacting like someone just suggested putting pineapple on pizza, outraged, bewildered, and ready to riot. Let's set the scene. The Conservatives, now out of power, are back to doing what they do best, writing very stern letters. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith has penned what can only be described as a political SOS to British businesses, basically saying, "Help us, you're our only hope." It's like watching your mate desperately try to get back with their ex, but instead of texting at midnight, they're rallying every business leader in the country. The ex, of course, is the British economy, and them friends are anyone with a business license and a pulse. But before we get lost in the political pantomime, let's break down what's actually in this bill. What's got everyone's knickers in such a monumental twist? Angela Rayner's Employment Rights Bill is, in essence, a greatest hits album of everything that makes business owners break out in cold sweats. First up, 0 hours contracts are getting the boot. Now, depending on your perspective, this is either a long overdue step towards worker protection or economic vandalism of the highest order. It's Marmite, but with more spreadsheets and the looming threat of employment tribunals. Love it or hate it, you can't ignore it. Next on the list, strengthened redundancy rights and more flexible working regulations. Because apparently, there's still more to learn about working from home in pajamas. But the real kicker? Ministers can now take companies to employment tribunals on behalf of employees, even if those employees never asked for help. It's like having your mum fight your battles at school, except your mum is now the government, and the playground is the entire UK economy. But wait, there's more. What's a Labour employment bill without some good old-fashioned union action? The bill repeals conservative trade union laws, making it easier for unions to strike. Brace yourself. It also nudges union funding of the Labour Party back to being automatic, a move so convenient for Labour's coffers it's almost poetic. Cue the business backlash. Lord Karen Billimoria, the Cobra beer guy, no less, has said this bill takes us back to the 1970s, when Britain was the sick man of Europe. Let's be honest, the 70s weren't exactly known for economic dynamism. They were famous for questionable fashion, endless strikes, and inflation levels that made monopoly money look stable. Luke Johnson, the entrepreneur behind Pizza Express, has gone full apocalyptic. He's compared the bill's potential impact to the time Britain had to go cap in hand to the IMF for a bailout. That's the economic equivalent of moving back in with your parents after bragging about being financially independent. Given all this, you'd expect some internal Labour drama, right? And you'd be correct. Apparently, there's proper cabinet beef happening behind closed doors. Chancellor Rachel Reeves is reportedly trying to water down Rayner's proposals because, shock horror, someone in government has noticed that businesses actually need to exist for the economy to function. When asked if she was trying to limit economic damage, Reeves gave the political equivalent of a non-answer, "We talk all the time to businesses." That's the same energy as we communicate with our spouse when asked if your marriage is falling apart. Technically true, but deeply worrying. It's like watching a slow-motion car crash. The car is the UK economy, the passengers are politicians, and everyone is arguing about who's driving while heading straight for a brick wall. What about the business world? How are they reacting to all this? With all the enthusiasm of a vegetarian at a barbecue festival. Alex Veitch from the British Chambers of Commerce has diplomatically warned of unintended consequences. In business speak, that translates to, this could go spectacularly wrong. Meanwhile, the British Retail Consortium wants to keep the 50% threshold for strikes because, apparently, they believe strike ballots should reflect actual consensus, not just whoever bothered to vote on a Tuesday afternoon. Luke Johnson, meanwhile, has gone nuclear, saying Angela Rayner doesn't speak the same language as people in the private sector and has no clue what it's like to build a business. It's harsh, but to many entrepreneurs, it rings true. It's like asking someone who's never driven a car to redesign the highway system. Labour's response has been predictably defensive. They're essentially saying, "How dare you criticise us for giving workers rights after you crashed the economy?" It's the political equivalent of, "Well, you're ugly," in a playground argument. They're standing firm on sick pay from day one and protection from unfair dismissal. In theory, these are hardly radical ideas. But the timing? It's questionable. It's like deciding to renovate your house during a hurricane. A Labour spokesman even accused the Tories of sheer hypocrisy for opposing worker rights after crashing the economy, which is a bit like being told off for bad driving by someone who just totaled their car, but with more political spin and fewer insurance claims. So here we are, British politics in 2025. Employment bills become unemployment bills. Business letters become battle cries. Everyone's arguing about the 1970s as if they're planning a theme party nobody actually wants to attend. The real question is this: will this bill create the worker paradise Labour envisions, or the economic wasteland business leaders fear? Or, in classic British fashion, will it somehow manage to be both simultaneously, a sort of Schrodinger's economy, simultaneously thriving and collapsing, depending on who you ask and what newspaper you read? Let's zoom out for a moment. 0 hours contracts have always been controversial. For some workers, they're a lifeline, flexible, adaptable, perfect for students or people juggling multiple jobs. For others, they're a one-way ticket to insecurity, with no guaranteed hours and no way to plan for the future. Abolishing them sounds noble, but what about the businesses, especially small ones, that rely on flexibility to survive? What about the workers who actually prefer the freedom of 0 hours gigs? It's a classic case of one size not fitting all. Then there's the strengthening of redundancy rights and making flexible working more accessible. In a post-pandemic world, everyone's got an opinion on working from home. Some see it as liberation, others, a productivity nightmare. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. But for businesses, especially those still recovering from COVID, it's yet another layer of complexity, another set of regulations to interpret and implement. The new power for ministers to take companies to tribunal on behalf of employees is perhaps the most contentious element. To some, it's a safety net for vulnerable workers. To others, it's an open invitation to litigation, bureaucracy, and the kind of government intervention that makes entrepreneurs sweat. Of course, the trade union reforms are the political dynamite. Making it easier to strike? Many remember that winter of discontent and the days when the country ground to a halt. Critics argue that giving unions more power is like handing a pyromaniac a box of matches. Supporters, however, say it's about restoring balance after years of anti-union legislation. Meanwhile, the automatic union funding of the Labour Party is the cherry on top. If you're cynical, it looks like a way of greasing the palms of your biggest donors. If you're idealistic, it's about empowering the collective voice of workers. What's fascinating is how this bill has exposed the fault lines not just between parties, but within them. Labour is clearly divided. One camp wants to charge forward with radical reform, the other is terrified of scaring away business investment. The Conservatives, meanwhile, are united in opposition but lack the power to do much more than write strongly worded letters. So, what happens next? Will British business adapt, as it always does, or will this be the straw that breaks the camel's back? Will workers finally get the protections they deserve, or will the economy take a hit just as the country needs growth the most? There are no easy answers. What's clear is that this debate is about more than just contracts and tribunals. It's about the soul of the British economy. Is the priority to protect the vulnerable, even if it means risking jobs and investment? Or is it to create conditions for growth, even if that means some people fall through the cracks? There's a reason this story has gripped the nation. It's not just about policy, it's about identity. Are we a country that champions business and entrepreneurship, or one that stands up for the little guy? Can we be both? As the dust settles, one thing's for sure, this isn't the last we'll hear of Angela Rayner's employment rights bill. Whether it becomes law in its current form, gets watered down, or is quietly shelved in a dusty Westminster filing cabinet, it's already changed the conversation. So, what do you think? Are these essential worker protections?